So the media community panel is going to be focused on how do we engage the world through media, through community outreach. There's been some testament already that we're doing a poor job of that, and we could do a better job of that. My background, my expertise is in climate and sustainability, so I'm going to give a quick prescription, what I think needs to be done in the climate sustainability world. I think those prescriptions are relevant to ending slavery as well, so hopefully you'll find those useful. And when I was talking with reporters in the lead up to this event, I actually just got an email from The Atlantic, which is a media outlet based in the US, saying, I actually don't understand, a friend of mine, I won't name his name, I don't understand the connection between trafficking, slavery, and climate change. This is a question I got when I did the press last year for the big mayor's summit that happened here, same topic. First day was on moderating slavery, second day was on climate change, sustainable development. Reporters asked, don't understand the connection. We've already talked about connecting the dots between climate change and climate refugees, vulnerable populations, slavery and trafficking, but also there's a fundamental principle, it's a misguided principle, that both are expendable and exploitable. We can exploit humans, we can exploit people, and we can exploit the planet. We can expend humans, we can expend people, and we can expend the planet. That misguided principle we need to fundamentally change. In the climate community, I'm going to suggest that rather than focusing heavily on 3 Ps, P as in Patrick, we focus on 7 Ms. M as in Michael. I'll just use my name. In the climate community, there is a heavy focus on Paris, policy, and proof. Paris, as you know, the big climate talks. I worked in the climate community that was very excited about those climate talks. But those climate talks have engaged a small, small portion of humanity. Large portions of humanity may have heard about Paris, may not. And as you know, Paris is largely voluntary. There are some legal parameters, but it's largely voluntary. Second, a big focus on policy. In the United States, the big fight right now is over the Clean Power Plan, which the Supreme Court ruled on, as you may know. But again, in the United States, small, small portion of Americans even know what the Clean Power Plan is. And lastly, proof. Big focus in the environmental community, as you know, over the proof, the data, the science. But again, small, small portion of humanity could even have a robust conversation about the data, or even want to have a robust conversation about the data, the science, the proof. I'm going to suggest 7 M's where the climate community and perhaps the trafficking and the slavery community could also focus more heavily, and it's an intro to our panel. Messengers. We desperately need better messengers. If you were to name the top 5 messengers in the climate community, sustainability community, I would argue that the top 5 you would name are not great evangelicals. Not Christian evangelicals, but they're not great evangelists in terms of the kind of charisma we need to lead a movement. Secondly, it has to make sense, both in the S-E-N-C-E, S-E, and C-E-N-T-S, sense and sense. It has to make common sense, rational sense, and it has to make financial sense. In the climate community, if you want to engage a middle American, it has to make sense both in the S and the C. 3, mainstream majority. You'll see the debate in the US, and I'm guessing in your countries too, is largely in the margins. It's in the marginal elite that understands the climate science, and it's in the marginal, equally elite who denies the climate science. Wall Street Journal versus New York Times as an example. We need to engage the mainstream majority. And I would argue that the climate community, the sustainability community, hasn't historically done a great job engaging the mainstream majority. I would imagine that's the same for the rest of you who are engaged in ending slavery and trafficking. Mass media, another great example. Climate community has done a pretty good, and I've been involved in this, has done a pretty good job engaging the New York Times, the Washington Post, Reuters, who's here today, Bloomberg, AP, and others. But if you look at the United States, my example, where a lot of readership is, it's in the local community papers, and we have not engaged that mainstream majority through those community papers, nor, I'm leading to my next M, around mass media. You'll find a lot of climate people, sustainability people aren't engaging the USA Today's, again using the American context, or Fox News. There are reasons for that. Sometimes there's not a robust debate. There's not a debate at all. It's yelling. And so a lot of reputable climate folks don't want to engage in a yelling debate on Fox News. I understand that, I get that. But we have to engage the mainstream majority in mass media because that's what they're consuming. The meta-narrative, another M. So we used energy independence for many years. Unfortunately, energy independence off of petrol states, I'm using the American context again, has led to energy independence in the wrong way. We're now dependent on our own oil, our own fracked gas, and so that meta-narrative, energy independence, has not proved sustainable. We need different meta-narratives. Some that are working has to do with democratization of energy. There's this great Green Tea Party libertarian in the US, Debbie Dooley, who talks about, from a libertarian perspective, I should be able to harness the sun, the wind, with no utility telling me what to do. I'm going to democratize my energy so I can get the sun and the wind on my own terms. Sixth M has to do with me. This is relevant in the slavery community as well as the climate community. We need to tell the story of what we're doing with our own food, fashion. This is very relevant to this morning's conversation about the clothes we're wearing. Who put them together? How are they enslaved in putting them together? Same with climate. What am I eating? Pound of meat versus a pound of soy. Pound of meat takes 150 times the greenhouse gas emissions than a pound of soy. How is the me, our story, being applied? Lastly, money. And this may not be something this group can fully muster, but again, using the United States as a context here, as you know, the fossil fuel industry controls the debate in our nation's capital and Congress. I used to work there. I saw it. It's real. Oil, coal, and gas run the show. Similarly, meat, pork, and poultry run the show. They are preventing a conversation in Congress about sustainability. So the question is, while that's deplorable, and thanks to our Supreme Court for Citizens United, which opened up the gates to more of that money, what is the other side doing to step up to the conversation, put money at the table, and say, we're serious about engaging the counter conversation here too? So in the US, the renewable energy industry stepping up and weighing in so that Congress listens. So the 7 M's. We need more messengers. We need to make sense with the S and the C. We need to engage the mainstream majority in mass media with new meta-narratives. We need to talk about the me, what we're doing, and we need more money. With that,